There is only input for 15 minutes. Do you have any public comments? Any comments from the public?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Do you want me to say something now?
Yeah, this would be the time for public. Yeah.
Should I say that?
She hasn't been here. Just could you inform her of what happens? Like, she give your name and
Okay, but you give your name, where you live, and what the topic is you wish to discuss. Each person speaks for 5 minutes, and it's 15 minutes per talk per person.
no total.
Total altogether. So you can take your 5 minutes and do what you wish, and then that is it. I shouldn't be interrupted, I would think.
Okay.
But are you more comfortable sitting?
Maybe I would stand up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I better stand. Now, my voice is about worn out. I've been all over Estacada. I've been in Estacada my name is Jen Clark, and I live over in Whispering Pines. And I've been in Estacada about 6 years and have come to the library in that time and the book nook. I used to work for Colleen at the library, Friends of the Library in Sandy. And I have a background in working in libraries to sell books. When this happened, when the explosion happened, it seemed like one of the things that was forgotten was what happens to all that money that was given to the book nook through the books that I bought in there and spent a lot of money there. What happens to that? It was raised for the library. Hello, where is it? I'm given to understand that this lady's handing it out everywhere else. I don't think that's right. And I would like to know why she hasn't been stopped and there's some kind of way to see that that money goes to the library, which is what it was purported to be. That's what I feel. Sorry about my voice.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And that is something we're going to need to be working on, because there are years worth of donations and library discards that were meant for that money to be used for the library. People see it as a way to return their tax dollars and make donations. And you have an interesting point there, and quite frankly, Jan, I don't know who can go any further with it. I don't know if it needs to be an attorney.
I think so. I think they're the ones that know the law, or what should be the law. And I did notice one time, I knew Linda. I don't live there anymore. But I knew Linda, and she mentioned that they deliberately didn't belong to the Friends of the Library groups. In other words, she didn't want anybody telling her what to do. That's what came forth. Well, I'm sorry. I don't think that's a good attitude. Plus, I think she has held the library hostage for what she's wanted. And I'm very disappointed in her. Very disappointed. And there was such a difference in this library after Emma came and Michelle came over what it was before. It's just impossible to tell you how different, how much better. So I feel like this has been unjust all the way down the line. I still come here. I'm buying books here.
I hope that you do. You know, frankly, I'm going to stop right now to see what we're going to do, because that amount of money is either $225,000 to $245,000 at what used to be the Public Foundation. And that money came from past donations, sales of books from the library, and people bring in books too to donate.
Yes.
And I'm not quite sure what the step is next because we're done with the foundation.
Obviously.
And there'll be times, but to this, I need to ask the city manager if he has some suggestions about what to do with that money that's sitting in an account someplace. Do we need to get an attorney?
I would recommend no, but the bottom line is that it is a foundation money, it does not belong to the library. And I think if you find yourself in court, you find out that it is their money, they can do whatever they want with it. Once something is donated to a nonprofit organization, it's that organization that has control of the funds. So I don't believe there's anything you can do about getting it back, so to speak. I think it's theirs, and I think you just need to move on.
Yes, but you know, one time I bought a picture in there. Oh, I paid a lot of money for it. I wanted it. She had named an outrageous price for it, but I wanted it. She said, this goes to the library. And I felt better, but she'd always told me this money goes to the library.
And maybe that money did, I don't know.
I doubt it.
I don't know.
I think that, from what I understand now, she was running that like she wanted, you know.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Well, are you really sure about that until you try?
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
Until you try, though.
Unless the council tells me to try, I can't do it.
Jan, thank you.
Okay.
It's been fun.
Sorry.
I appreciate
No
your
problem.
comments. Is there someone else who would like to speak during the public? Okay.
My name is Johnny Reynolds. I live at 21755 Southeast Cook Road, Eagle Creek. And I didn't get this written up or thought through, but I would like to see a discussion at the next meeting or sometime soon about the issue of seat designations on this board, because I am not clear who is what seats are designated, what positions go with what seats. I'm not sure what seat yours is, and since your term is coming to an end soon, I wondered if August was going to be your last or September, and what your seat designation was. If we are advertising for new board members, are we going to bring out the old pre-existing applications? And I would also like to see a discussion of putting the seat designation very specifically and clearly into the bylaws, so that it is absolutely clear what the composition of this board is and not subject to whims at any point in the future. So I would like the board to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. And one of those answers is right here in the bylaws. The board shall consist of 5 trustees. No fewer than 2 members of the board shall be residents of the city.
I'm very familiar with that, and it is still not specific as to who is what, you know, and how that is decided.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And certainly, I suppose we can talk to city council about it. The position I'm in is like, say, like a floating member, because the council could select 5 people to run the board.
I understand.
We don't want to do that, but we are not bounded by geographical areas other than in the city, out in the district. But anyone can apply. Anyone in the city can apply to be one of those 5. So I suppose what will happen when my seat comes up at the end of September is that we can ask the city council if they would like to just have open applications, because it could come from everywhere, people could come from anywhere, or what else to do. 2 of the members now are in the library district. Janet is a city resident. Okay. Craig is a district person. Suzanne is a city resident. Erlene is district representative. And I guess mine's kind of afloat because
I think she wants to know
What
when our
would-
terms are up.
What I would like to be clear about is that since we have 2 city residents, will we accept applications for your seat from outside the city, or will applicants be told that your seat is a city seat?
Anybody can apply for that seat.
anybody can apply for it. That's fine. That's fine. It doesn't, I mean, you don't have to divide it up into certain precincts like you might have to. Okay, John, do you have any more? Because we are about running out of time on the public comment. I should have waited to answer you at another time.
I thought
because
we
we're-
would discuss it later.
Yes, but I don't know how much we'll be discussing later. Yes,
Yes, I'm Janet Kuiper-Heller, I'm the city of Estacada, and I just heard that the interim director was given a small raise for her additional duties, and I appreciate that. We want to keep all the good help we can have.
absolutely. And especially when we're coming to we're a steep learning curve.
Yes.
Because the duties of a library director and the duties of records librarian kind of overlap in some things, but the rest of the things are very different. And so she's trying to run 2 positions at once, plus the children's reading program. So, yes, she is being,
So thank you.
is being remunerated at a higher rate than she was. Is that all for public comment? Yes.
I have a question on this. If you have 5 members up here, does it always have to be 2 from the city? Is that in the bylaws or what?
It's in the
Can
bylaws.
you change the bylaws on
And
that?
no, I don't believe.
Why can't you?
I don't believe the city council will do that. Of course, we can change bylaws if you're willing to see the beginnings of a World War III, but we need to be addressing these. But the city feels it needs 2
Why,
representatives.
how do you justify 2 from the city when 90% of the funds for the library come from the people that are outside the city?
I suppose it's because the city manages the library.
But 90% of the funds come from outside the city,
That could be.
approximately. That's not a can be, that's what it is. 88%, 89%. And yet you have 2 representatives from the city. You should have 4 outside the city and only 1 representative from the city.
Can I clarify? I didn't come to speak for this, but let me
Yes.
just clarify that issue. The library is nothing more nor less than a city department. The fact that they formed a district to fund it so that it would have adequate funds to operate, which they didn't have before, doesn't change the fact that it is a city library. The library is governed by the city council, and they make the rules. That's why.
So to change it, I'd have to look it up somehow to change it to justify, because I don't really feel that we should have 2 people from the city on
Okay,
board.
that might be something then that you might wish to discuss with city council, because they would be the ones who would be making the decision on that. And they meet the 2nd and 4th Mondays at 7 o'clock in City Hall. When you go in there, there'll be a form for you to fill out. with
Yeah,
your
I've been
name.
there.
Okay, then you know the procedure, what to do, and your chance to speak. Okay, being no further public input, we need to read the minutes from the May 9th and 24th meeting. Ready? All right, who's gonna read these, Melanie or you?
Are we not? What? Are we just approving them?
Well, I thought we're just approving them, are you? I didn't see it, we need to read that.
I have an objection to the way they're incorrect as far as the flag, the purchase of the flag, that passed. I went back to YouTube and checked it, and there was a 3-2 vote, so it did pass.
I'm in the situation of my printer is again back in command. It's waiting to be discarded, but I didn't print that off. Yes, we did vote 3-2 by a flag, and that was Janet and Suzanne and I voted to do that. And I spent the $14.99 to buy a flag, because that was all it was. And it seemed to me like a trifle to turn down. Where is it? Being installed. But we can certainly go and hand carry it in if you like.
I'd like to go on record as stating I don't believe that we need to say the Pledge of Allegiance at our meetings. However, I think a flag is a good reminder that we live in the United States with the literary freedoms that we do, and I think it's a good reminder. And this is a public building.
That sounds good to me. Is there anything else from the meeting notes prior? Nope. Okay, then we are on to director's report.
Are the meeting minutes being approved and
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting notes as amended.
Second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Suzanne. Okay? Still.
Can I borrow a couple minutes of your time?
Sure.
I'd just like to make a couple statements. Wrote these out before I came. First, I want to publicly thank Michelle for taking on the interim director position. She still has her other job to do, her real job, and I think she's off to a great start right now. So thank you, Michelle, for what you're doing. One of my jobs as city manager is to analyze and supervise the activities of various departments, boards, and services of the city. And with all the acrimony that's been coming through these meetings in the past 6 months, I basically want to ensure that Michelle can be successful in her term as interim manager, along with her other job. So a couple of things I wrote down. First of all, I've asked Melanie to continue taking the minutes for the meetings. I don't want to put that burden on Michelle. Next, I've asked her to change the agenda procedure a little bit by including the written staff reports and the prior minutes in your agenda packets. So you have these before the meeting. They will be available the Friday before the meetings. And it should include all the stuff, the reports and those kind of things. So that could shorten up the discussion time during the meetings. Pertaining to the agenda, the bylaws are silent on preparing the agenda. So I basically asked Michelle to work with the president to put items under new business because everything else is fixed by the bylaws. So the only thing different that will come to you will be the new business, whatever that turns out to be. And then speaking of the bylaws, it seems like everybody wants to follow them and follow them to the letter. And I say, fine, let's do that. But that means all the bylaws. And if you haven't read them lately, they're voluminous. There are, I think, 20 some odd appendixes that go with the bylaws. They've all been incorporated by reference, so they're all part of the bylaws. So we'll spend some time reviewing those. They're quite interesting. I'm glad to see that Michelle put that on the agenda tonight to talk about. So hopefully that'll go somewhere. And maybe your effort this time won't be ambushed by a couple of the malcontents that shot the last effort down. And finally, I agree that the board needs to resolve the relationship with the foundation once and for all. I think that's on your agenda tonight. I think you need to move forward and get beyond that, and I'll do whatever I can to help with that effort. So that's basically all I wrote down tonight. I may have more later on, but thank you, Michelle, for what you're doing.
You're welcome.
And if I can help you out, let me know.
Okay.
That's all.
We have May 9th meeting minutes to actually, from May 9th to approve.
I don't have them.
Okay. It was one page, they were really short.
Yes, it was. Always incredible.
Oh, and they were in with the things that I sent around.
Okay, so you have, everybody has this because I don't have it with me.
I probably have it in the file here somewhere.
Okay.
I'll put it.
It's short enough you couldn't.
Okay. Call to order. Chair Harden called the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Present, Director Craig Bartel, Director Janet Mullen, Director Suzanne Sager, Chair Harden, Library Director Anna Stavanoa, and City Recorder Denise Carey. Absent Director Early Marsh. There was no public input. And then they go to budget discussion. City Recorder Carey explained how the beginning fund balance was determined. The board discussed personnel and the possibility of changing the librarian position to part-time. The board decided not to extend library hours on July 1st, but to stay with the current reduced hours. It was recommended to have the opening time be more consistent and to stagger the closing times. Staff will make changes in personal services to reflect the reduced hours and submit the budget to the board for approval at their May 24th, 2012 regular meeting. And we adjourned at 6:15. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So I did send around the expense and ledger report and email, and I gave it to Earlene today. Are there any questions about that?
How much can we spend before the new fiscal year begins?
We have 2 days.
2 days, okay.
We did.
Do we have some money then to spend during those 2 days?
Yes, we do. I believe we're in a very healthy state going forward.
So the money left will go over to next year?
Yes, it will roll over in any budget line, that things that were not spent, it will roll over into the next budget year.
Well, what stands out to me is the collection development fund, and both you and Anna assured me that we would be spending all of that before the end of the fiscal year, and we have close to 40% of it left, or excuse me, 35% of it left. And is there a reason why we didn't spend it?
Probably just because I would have time to do the things that I would normally do. We lost Anna, she did half of the ordering. We lost Jenny, she did the children's ordering, and I did the other ordering. I said that some things were not going to happen.
Sure.
So that's kind of what happened. But we have a lot of money, and it will be spent in time.
Well, I guess my concern is that $40,000 for collection development is about 2/3 of what the minimum for that needs to be, and we only spent 2/3 of that. So we only spent $26,000 on collection development this year, and yet at the same time, I'm assured that we have a fine collection, I'm not questioning whether we have a fine collection, but what I do question is how long that collection will be fine if we don't continue to develop our collection. So it seems to me that one of the primary functions of the library is to provide materials, and if we're not buying new materials, then we're not meeting that goal. And to me, I understand you've been very busy. I'm not trying to take away from that in any way, but I would really like to see us spend the money on our collection development, because that seems to be, to me that should be a #1 priority, is providing, continuing to develop our collection. So hopefully that will correct itself. I guess I'm a little disappointed that I was told otherwise, and here we are, and it hasn't been spent. So
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do is buying materials. I love it. It's something that takes quite a bit of time. I don't just sit down with a catalog and check things off. You know, it's a lot of assessment, especially in children's. You don't just go down the list and get whatever, because it's important to get things that are appropriate for different age groups. And we have 32 areas in the collection that we order for. That's really big. And I think just the carryover will also help us at the beginning of the year when we run out, you know, we don't get the money. We had that fallow period where we had no cash coming in, that we're waiting for the receipts from the taxes. Is that, yeah. There's a period last year that Anna did not buy anything, which upset a lot of people, including the staff. So, you know, I want to spend that as soon as possible, but I also have been given this, you know, incredible opportunity to serve the library as interim director, and it is a high learning curve. I'm taking a lot of time to really do what you're asking me to do, so I will spend it as soon as I can. Are there any other questions about that? Okay, so I will move on to the library statistics, and you can see it looks a little bit different this time. Usually we have like annual statistics, and I was talking with Denise Carey about this, and she was questioning, you know, why do we have things from August 08, 09, 10, and actually I don't know where Anna got these statistics. We had very little time before she left for her to fill me in on this. So I don't have annual statistics on the May monthly statistic report, but the other things, you know, you can have a look at that if you have any comments. You know, everything is down. The percentage change is, especially patrons registered, is down almost 30%.
Now, those aren't new cards, are they?
Patrons registered would be new library cards.
Okay, new library cards, so we still have a base of people.
Right.
I'm afraid it's gonna take some time, so you can take a breather to go back and find out what happened that other month.
Well, no, I did that. April 12th, that's being amended. Remember last month, we had some questions about why does it look like this, and there were some question marks. This is being updated. So April 12th, those are all the corrected figures. May, those are the current figures. And so the monthly change is between April and May. So that's all been corrected. I think this just really speaks to the reason why we need the number of staff that we need. Registered patrons is something you go out and you do outreach and you talk to groups and you advocate for the library. That's one of the main things of a director. You need to go out and tell people about the library. And with Jenny leaving too, we did not get to go to the schools and register people for library cards. Just something, you know, we had staff that could not do that. So things like this, I really don't want to see change, but I want to see the numbers on the plus side.
Would you be open to volunteers?
Volunteers doing what?
Going out and outreach of groups? I mean, you know, board members, for example, have contact, I'm sure, with different groups.
That seems to be, from my reading of the bylaws, that's one of the charges of groups such as the board. You know, to go out and advocate for the library and be a voice and tell people about this great institution. So yeah.
So we're going to have a form application?
We have application for volunteers. It is something that we want to train people and make sure that they know what they're saying about the library, because you don't want anybody going out and, you know, recruiting people and saying, you know, whatever. You have to stay on message, and as long as we could do that, sure. It's just something that needs to get done. I have a lot of ideas about using volunteers, and you just have to make it work eventually.
This is the importance of committees, and that's why we need to form more subcommittees with board members heading up some of these committees, because number one, these meetings take far too long as it is, and if we could accomplish some things in committee, there could be reports as opposed to entire discussions at the board level. And I really can't stress enough that we need to move back in that direction as it was before, and establish before you came to Estacada, when the library prior had several committees, to deal with various things.
Do you remember what they were?
Well, we had the committee for the various events that were held. There was I know that there was the summer Renaissance Fair. We had committees that were in charge of fundraising at that time, as we were getting ready, moving towards building the new library. Since the library was in the City Hall, there was no building maintenance committee, but I feel very strongly that that's something we need to move towards.
The Renaissance Fair Committee, that was very fun. That was about 7 to 8 years ago. And there was a group of volunteers who liked to work with Amy, and they're the ones who got it set up. And it was fun. It was really enjoyable. But
I can see some value in having committees, and I would like to do that.
And that brings many more people in.
Yep.
One of the statements during the strategic plan from Cheryl, what was her name? Who came out and spoke to us as strategic plan?
Oh, Diane Satchwell.
Said the research that they did for the Wesleyan plan showed that for every dollar that was spent on the library, $4 more was spent within the city. I don't know how you track statistics like that, but it impressed the heck out of me. And I suppose if you come in to do something at the library, then I might as well run down, get my stamps, go to the grocery store, all kinds of things. So, because a library is so much more than books. But so far, that's something that's about 7 or 8 years ago, the Renaissance Fair, and
some committees would be. If I could just jump in too and say that usually that's one of the prime things that a library director does is going out and speaking to groups. And I think also a library director can answer a lot of people's questions maybe better than a volunteer can, because volunteers aren't always privy to the information that a library director would have. So, but yes, committees.
what outreach have you been doing going to different groups? Chamber of Commerce?
What have I done?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in the last month of being to the chamber, I went to an event at Janet's, which is the garden club.
Mm-hmm.
I went to city council last week, and those are just kind of preliminary things to let people know who I am. So this is the beginning.
We used to stroll around the skate park, just let people know who Michelle is, and that is Michelle.
So yeah, I should move on though.
All right.
The boot camp, our staff met for 5 hours on June 1st, and it was an opportunity for us to really get some things out in the open. I think some people were still kind of quiet, although it was encouraged to speak out. I think that was just the first step to continuing dialogue within our group, and I left feeling positive, and I hope everybody else did as well. We did talk about a lot of things that we wanted to do in terms of publicity and in terms of promoting our library. Some of the things that came up were having a library blog that everybody contributes to. Another thing that came up would be to be in the July 4th parade, and everybody's pretty excited about doing that. We have one of our volunteers has volunteered her small truck, and Johnny and Thea and a lot of us are going to decorate it. And we're gonna walk in the parade. And we're gonna hand out, we have some Tootsie Rolls that are wrapped in like flag paper, red, white, and blue, and we're gonna hand out 50 library dollars that people can bring into the library to get $1 off their fines. So that was just a start, and I expect that our staff will continue to, you know, talk about things that we want to talk about. I mean, I established that I think everybody should talk about what they want to and don't hold back.
Would that be a time to hand out surveys? I mean, it's kind of a parade, but I mean, some of them might come back.
I thought about that, and I'm still thinking about that. The main thing is the trash issue, but I can talk about the survey in a minute and what we're doing. I also want to mention about the boot camp that our staff got a card for the board, and I'll pass it around. We wanted to thank Erlene and Suzanne and Janet and Karen for donating food for us. So thank you very much. You can pass it around. Everybody signed in on the staff, at least everybody that was there at the time. So I'll move on to summer reading programs. We've had 3 programs so far. We had Dragon Theater Puppets, which had 48 people. We had The Reptile Man, which had 2 shows, which was 178. May I repeat? 178 people in the afternoon. The evening show was 100 people. That was astonishing. This place was packed. The 3rd show was today. It was a couple of guys from Portland who sing. They were educational, kind of fun songs, competitions. That was 82 people. So far, that's going great. A lot of kids signing up. We have the prizes, their book prizes ready for them to pick up after July 1st. Questions on that?
I do wonder what was in that bottom box that was large. Because that reptile apparently warmed up enough to fling itself around. It was quite nosy little dog.
Yeah, the kids just love that.
Yeah, the kids, there was no expression one of, oh, I'm afraid of snakes or anything else, because he was a good speaker.
Yeah, just
and let the kids touch him and hold him and wrap him around, and their parents weren't always, okay, you know, because we learn those things.
Yeah, so that was great, and I'm happy with the way it's going so far. The strategic plan, we put that on hold until at least the fall. We reached a point on that where we've done some work. We had Diane Satchwell come in on the very last meeting and go through her PowerPoint that she gave in West Lynn. And Diane's been a real inspiration to me because she has about 30 years experience, and I like the way West Lynn's done their plan. The rest of the people in the group also really like it. The rest of the people really liked her plan as well, so the plan going forward is to kind of emulate what they're doing. But the reason we stopped is for summer, and also to distribute a library survey, which I've included in the director's bunch of papers. I also have some here. If you didn't get a survey to fill out, you're welcome to take one and fill it out.
Are you bringing this to us for the board approval, or?
Just to see what we've done so far.
So this is already released?
Yes, this has been released. It's being approved by the rest of the strategic plan committee.
Don't you think that, you know, it's a committee, so don't you think the committee should report it to the board and then kind of involve the board in the decision-making process, or?
The decision-making about what?
Well,
What to put on the survey?
Well, yeah, just or to bring it to us, and I just thought it would be courtesy, but,
Okay,
but
I can answer that.
maybe I'm off base.
There aren't any results yet, are there?
Oh, yes, there
Oh,
are.
are
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of results. The reason we moved forward, Craig, is because of the Reptile Man show. It was a perfect opportunity to stand there and hand out the survey to over 278 people, or at least there were 278 people there, and the parents that were there. So I wanted to be able to hand it out at the program. That's our biggest program of the summer. And this was circulated to the people on the strategic plan committee ahead of time. And I asked for their input and what they thought about, do you want to send this out? And the people who responded said, go for it. And let's do it.
Well, does the board, do any of us have any revisions? We could still approve it, or we could add to it.
Well, see, it's already out there, and once you put a survey out, it's really not a good idea to change it, because then your results come back and not everybody got to answer the same questions.
Wasn't this based on the survey from Westland anyway?
Well, some of the questions came from actually Deschutes Public Library in Bend, and these questions were things we had talked about as part of the strategic plan group. What kind of questions do you want to have on there? And we also had a library survey that I believe Anna had circulated, and it was approved by the board at one point. Yeah, this was a while ago. Yeah, this was a while ago. She had a survey that was, yeah, this was circulated.
Barbara, did you have a question?
So yeah, we're just awaiting the results, and I've asked Sadie to tell me about putting it in the water bill. She said I need about 941 copies. So that's a decision I haven't made yet. I have any input about putting it in a bill, sending it around. I had the Survey Monkey that it could go up online, so people could do it online, but they still have to print it out and bring it in, because we're offering like a book dollar if you bring your survey back to the library.
The only problem with the putting it in the bill is it's only going to go to the city residents,
Okay.
and that would be, we don't want to, make this look like this is
Exactly.
just a city.
Okay, so that hasn't been done yet.
Right.
That hasn't been done.
Okay, so could we think about putting the post office in Boring and at that gas station and other places like that to get a diverse range?
And put a notice in the paper that it's online and
Mhm.
people can go and do their survey.
Okay.
It's just prohibitive to mail it,
Yeah.
and the returns aren't always good with mail
It
things.
looks like a really good survey. That's certainly not my point, is to disparage the survey. The survey looks fine. I would just really,
Yeah, I agree with you.
we're looking, as we're moving forward, there's I think an overall consensus that there's been a disjointed nature between the library, the board, the citizenry, and if we're trying to create a more unified direction forward. As an example, the strategic planning committee itself was never brought before the board. It was never suggested at any board meeting. It was just formed, and I'm not exactly sure who even took the initiative, but all of a sudden there was a strategic planning committee, which we needed, and that's all fine, but it was done outside of this room, and people were selected by
Yeah, I
what
think we talked
process.
about this before.
No, I don't think we have.
Yeah. All right, you have.
But
brought this up
excuse me,
before.
I'm speaking, Karen, and I would appreciate if I could just finish my, pardon me?
Okay, well,
Okay.
let's,
All right. Right.
I move
Enough
to
said.
read that the board accepts this survey and then shall continue to distribute it.
Second.
Questions?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I do understand your point, Craig, and I want to thank you for bringing that up, especially the part about let's try to work things in together. I just do want to reiterate that I felt it was an opportunity that if I let it pass, I would beat myself up for it.
Oh, I understand.
I really did. And
But the process then should be to get it in front of the board prior to the reptile meeting. And I understand, you've been extremely busy and the things have been in disarray. I'm just maybe trying to provide a little bit of unified direction forward for us
okay.
all.
No, I appreciate your point. Thank you.
Thank you.
The bylaws, do they prohibit us or you taking a quick survey? I know I'm not on the computer much, but, call and say, is it okay? Is it okay? Is there any rule against doing that in the bylaws
To do what?
To check with the board. Is that what I mean?
to survey the board, just Yeah, just say, the survey, remember, is that okay? And get a yes,
I
no.
don't think there's anything against that. No,
Okay.
no, I don't have any
That's how you
objections
jump
to
in,
that.
Michelle, that would be a violation of the open meeting law.
Oh, it was,
You'd be
okay.
making a decision without being in an open meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so then a correct thing would just be to bring it to a meeting.
Put it on the agenda.
Okay, so how would we do that if we have a once a month meeting and it was something that needed to occur before a board meeting? Is this something we can do in email at all? We can't do it in email?
No, not the email.
Apparently not if it's open. Would it be okay if it were posted on email for, a week or something? Would that be considered open?
It has to be in an open meeting. If you're making a decision or deliberating towards a decision, the best way to do it would be called special meeting.
Yeah, and a special meeting has to be announced 7 days before?
24 hours.
24 hours, okay, so Michelle, that's,
Okay. Valuable info, thank you. All right, so I'm done with the director's report.
All right, we'll go to old business then. Discussion of knowledge of and understanding of the bylaws by everyone. Kind of old business because we do quite a bit with the bylaws. New is new business, but I don't think we need to. With this, are we suggesting getting together? Yes, it could be a separate meeting, and as a group, going over the bylaws. We have things in the bylaws that are counter to city procedure or are asking for additional rights that are not in the bylaws that would still need to meet. I know that we've agreed that any voting on the bylaws would be done in a regular meeting with plenty of notice. And so people have some things they would like to add or think, boy, that's out of date. Do we really need that? Yes.
Excuse me, the question is the discussion is knowledge of and understanding of the bylaws, not changing the bylaws. We're not discussing changing them at this point. We're talking about making sure everybody understands the bylaws.
Okay.
We did go over we did have the meeting with the mayor and councilors Drinkwine and Dodrill, where we did go over the first number of pages of it as far as our board responsibilities, and I found that quite informative. But at any rate, the issue isn't changing bylaws. The issue is understanding them.
Well, partially why I put this on here is just for the reason you said, but also, I mean, it's still true that there are things that conflict with the city council ordinances. Is that correct, Bill?
There's a couple.
And if we can do it in a way that makes everyone happy and it makes people not feel they're being slighted, I think it's worth going through them.
It can't hurt. I mean, you don't have to do the whole thing at one time, but maybe if we went through them all together, there'll be some brilliant ideas coming out. And to make sure that we do not assume additional powers that are not granted to us by the bylaws in the city. I did get your email about the hiring committee. I wasn't quite sure when I got.
I think that was one of the items that you were saying, that it's not in the bylaws, certain things that were coming out, and so it needs to be addressed. I mean, it just needs for everyone to understand what it is, because it just seems like we're really bogged down, really crippled by things that come up and that we don't know exactly what it is. Like one that Bill just brought up was who sets the agenda. And I've read the bylaws, I studied them again today. They require more time, but it is not in there who really sets that. But now Bill has said that the president and myself will set those. So it's just issues like that.
So that we're all clear together.
So is the city manager capable of changing the bylaws at any time he feels fit? Is that within your authority?
No, I didn't change the bylaws.
No, I know you did. I'm just asking though, as that seems to be what Michelle was intimating.
No, I cannot change the bylaws, and you guys can amend the bylaws.
Right. I understand that. You know, I was just, you know, you said at the first of the meeting that, you know, there were some changes forthcoming, and I was just curious about that. So.
It's my opinion, and it's only my opinion, that the bylaws need to be changed. I think that's what the original committee was designed or set up to do, was go review them and recommend changes. And that got shut down completely. So I still feel that there's some things in there that are tying your hands as a board, things that you can't do. And you know, why be bound as tight as you are by certain restrictions? Why not give yourself some discretion and some freedom to operate? So that was the attempt.
Well, there was no committee ever formed. I was at that meeting, and there was never a motion made to form a committee, and so there was never a formal committee. That was probably part of the objection to the process, was how it got started, and it kind of got rolling from there. I know that there are a couple of interpretations of things that maybe need to be looked at, but you know, the people that worked on these for a year and a half to get these things into the state they're in, and I think they did a pretty good job. Now, that's not to say there aren't things that probably need to be looked at, and if they're you know, if they're not in compliance, then obviously we need to look at them, you know, but I think the wholesale changes that were brought out of the meetings, which you know, I'm not sure who was on the committee, but
Karen Hardman and I were on it.
right.
Yeah, and we met with Bill, and we went item by item through the.
And since the chairman or the president appoints committees, it was a committee.
A committee to Janet and I, and that
Well,
wasn't Bill.
Okay, so there's
We
no
volunteered.
motions
We
required, or
volunteered.
nothing's required there, it's
No.
just,
No, it was a pretty compatible group at that time, and I guess we could have made it more officious. But
Several individuals made sure that it never got to a public hearing in front of this board.
What's that?
It should have happened, but it didn't.
what's that?
I say several individuals made sure that it didn't get in front of this board to have a public hearing.
Who would that be?
I don't want to name names right now.
Well, that seems unfair to level charges without attaching names to them. That seems it's kind of unfair there.
Then I'll name the two emails that got it all started. One was from Barbara Bartell, and the other one was from Foundation. Linda Arnett. Those two letters got everybody upset and at the meeting. That's where it came from,
In your opinion?
in my opinion.
So to move forward, if we could just, I mean, that's kind of why I put this on the agenda, just because there are misunderstandings like that, and we're not, like, everybody needs to really know how they work.
Agreed.
And
I
if
absolutely
we,
agree.
and especially, you know, when we get some new board members coming in, you know, September, October, so I don't know when we should hold this, but it's just, it's really important that everybody know how to do things. And that's really why, and especially for me, because I'm, you know, as I've said, I have a learning curve on this. And as long as people know what it says, then we will really avoid a lot of the conflicts that we've had in the past. I'd love to see that. I want everybody to know what their roles are.
Now, did Bill say at the beginning that Melanie would keep doing minutes? Is that what you suggested?
Yes.
Despite bylaws and everything, and I'm sure that's a relief to you, but I think that, Are we going to discuss that, or should we
Well, I believe that in the past it was brought up, and the reason, this was a long time ago, is because Anna wanted to focus, it's when we were still in the other room, the tiny room, having meetings. She expressed how hard it was for her to participate in the meetings and also accurately take the minutes. It is hard to participate and take the minutes, and if I have to go look at tapes later on, it's really time consuming.
And once we step out of your director's report, really the meeting becomes the board's meeting, my opinion is that you should be able to, with all the resources we have available, we have it on tape, we have it on videotape, we have it on audio tape. It seems like doing the minutes would not be out of line. I'm not opposed to having somebody else do them, but the problem I see then is that the person that's taking the minutes then is a different person then that is setting the agenda, and it seems to me that it would be best if those were consolidated to one position so that the information from the last meeting is carried forward into the next meeting.
Some meetings have an official secretary that really does not take the minutes, but she is responsible for the minutes. So it's a staff person like Clackamas River Basin Council. Our secretary does not take any notes.
Right.
The staff does, but she's responsible. So, the bylaws, I don't know, we could make a temporary exception or a permanent exception or
I think it
something.
was, and that's what I was trying to remember, but really, that was a really long time ago. It was brought up that could we have an exception at that time, and that's where it went from there, and that's why Melanie has been doing it since then.
The fact that we've also lost 1.5 full-time people, to me, your time is worth more than secretary time. As far as, I don't know about you, but it would take me 2 or 3 hours to go through, comb the minutes, do everything that it takes to get it in a presentable form, and you work 40 hours a week?
Well, more than that.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah. You'll work a whole lot more than that if you take on these kinds of duties. I just feel like this is something that isn't that important.
In the Oregon Library Association, there was one person, the secretary, who kept the minutes, and an entirely different person who set the agenda. And that was usually the precedent, OLA.
And do we need to be concerned about the money? Is Melody compensated?
Well, yes, she works in the city.
It's part of her job.
And that's out of our budget, not city budget.
It's all part of that computation that
5%.
Denise does about charging for those hours that everybody does.
So it's paid regardless.
Yes.
Okay.
I might suggest that when you get the email from, or the minutes from Melanie, that you comb through the video and the audio and see if anything is missing that you think is urgent, and then call Melanie and say, maybe we missed one, and could we do this?
So do we need to do something official about this exception to our bylaws temporarily? I would so
I think
move.
it had been done really, I mean,
I think we've done this back a while.
Melena was the president at the time. I just don't remember. I think it has been done, but, and then Bill is saying.
Yeah, I guess my interpretation of it is that your director is still secretary of your board. Doesn't mean she has to take the minutes, doesn't write down the minutes and all. Anybody-
She's just responsible.
She's responsible for them, yes.
And I
So
get
that
them
doesn't
to
change.
you once they're done. Okay, if that would be acceptable, I would really like to continue that.
See, that's one of the things that's wrong with your bylaws, is you don't have any authority to make an exception.
So we can't vote on it because that's an exception.
I mean, you can vote to change the bylaws, but you have to do it at the next meeting. You can't do it tonight.
Hey, Melanie, keep on doing a great job.
Yeah, she does do it.
I don't know, speaking of your email about getting information out about hiring another person, if we need to jump into that right now, when we have so many things going on with summer reading, you got one staff person who's trying to do 2.5 jobs and gather information every time it's needed, and somebody has a question.
Well, do we have a deadline on
No.
permanently? So it could be half a year, a year
You're asking about a deadline for
for officially hiring.
Bill?
I don't think there's an official deadline. I think when I talked to Michelle about assuming the interim position, we talked about a 6-month period. So that's not definite, it's just something we talked about that we hope it would go in 6 months.
Okay, so maybe the board should have a goal of making this permanent or searching or something.
No, I don't know if you want to do that for 3 weeks. Isn't that about how much?
My question was
No, I mean-
ultimately, I was just curious about the process. I didn't know what the process was. Ultimately, it's Mr. Elliott's authority to hire the director with recommendations from the board. So the bylaws are clear. It is Mr. Elliott's domain. But I just didn't know, there's been nothing said about where we're going and what we're doing and how this is how it's going to play out. So what I put out in the email was intended to just spark the conversation, although we've moved on to new business without finishing old business. But
Well, I don't want to be surprised like we have been in the past, but like this needs to get done, and if we only meet once a month, we need to kind of know when we're going to do it or not do it, or,
Yeah, I
or
think-
get together. I mean, it's really important.
it is important.
So did you want me to jump back to the
Well,
public
yeah.
commentary?
Well, to the Library Foundation and say,
Well, do you want me to address the replying to the questions that were raised in public comments?
yes.
Okay, well, I did reply to Keyhanger, and I would like to talk about that because I think it was a really good resolution to that issue. He wondered about borrowing the projector for the library, and we weren't loaning it out to people because really nobody had asked us about using it after hours, and he was upset, rightfully, that we didn't have anything in place. But the reason for that was this is an $800 piece of equipment, and since we are not allowed to charge any fees for the use of the equipment, we wanted to kind of hang on to it and
Protect it.
so what I decided and discussed this with Bill, approved with Bill, is that we would treat it as a piece of city property and let people check it out on their library cards. So that's what we're going to do. And I will draw up, and I've started researching this, draw up an agreement that we would ask people to sign if they're going to use a projector after hours. And it would state that you need to leave it in a certain place when you're done, that would be safe. And I don't know if we can require like a driver's license, your library card, you need to be 18 years and older, tell people where to store it. Kind of like when someone checks out a cultural pass, we have a page that we give them with the rules. Like if you lose this, it's going to cost you $60 because you have to replace it. So what I plan to do is create an agreement, which I will bring to the board. So you can see it, and we can move forward from that. So I have made some progress. Hope to make some more progress.
Is this a machine that has a bulb or anything that after it's had so many hours on it?
But, oh, so what we've done is also labeled, it comes in a bag. We've labeled the bag, Estacada Public Library all over. It's got a barcode, everything on it is labeled with our name. We have a tag on it that lists each item. So when it does come back, we will check on each item and make sure everything is there. So I think it was the best solution at the time. If we can't charge people for using it, then if they lose it, they need to know what it costs. So I've spoken to Pete face to face on that, and I also emailed him with that information. So
Thank you very much.
yes, yeah. So I'm really happy about that. So is he. The other thing is I responded to Janet in person about her questions, and let's see, I believe Karen wrote to Mrs. Callerman.
Yeah.
And was there someone else? I think that was it.
And there's Greg Johnson also.
Oh, Greg.
You know, and understand, please, that I'm not asking for acceptance or denial or anything on any of these issues. What I'm looking for is when the public, in other words, our tax-paying citizenry, when they bring things before the board, we need to do more than just say we'll take it under advisement and thank you very much, you know. And I would like to see us either say, well, we'll take that under advisement and have an answer for them at some point and do a little research, or say, I'm sorry, that's out of our jurisdiction or authority or whatever, but come up with an answer rather than just leave the people with no answer at all. But Greg's has been his request for additional data regarding library discards and a yearly inventory process. I was curious if, you know, I mean, if a book is pulled out of our collection, it's scanned, right?
If it's checked out?
Well, I mean, no. If it's pulled, if it's removed, if it's deleted, if it's discarded.
It's officially discarded.
Okay, so that is scanned through the system, right?
Yes.
So isn't there a way for the computer to just generate a report that shows how many discards we have and a yearly inventory process? That might be a little bit more involved, but maybe these are questions that are things that we can achieve. But my point is that we discuss them and we have an answer, yes, no, put it under advisement, and then come up with an answer for the people.
Okay, a couple of things for Greg, because he's on our strategic planning committee. We did answer his question during one of our meetings,
okay,
because Sarah's also part of that.
Good.
And he did bring it up here to the board because of the board meeting. He wanted the board to also know that he asked that question. So he has been answered a couple of times on that. And,
good.
So I think Greg is satisfied as well. And we told him that we take an inventory now. We take, actually, if you see this in your packet, I also wanted to share this. This is a list of the materials donations to the library. Just for the people that don't have it listed, in May we had 408 books donated, 162 VHS tapes, 37 DVDs, 5 puzzles, and added to the collection, we added 87 items to the collection of donations. That's outstanding. And out of that, 10 items were completely replaced, which was mean we got a new copy of a book that was trashed. So we took our copy off and put on a new copy, for instance, or a newer copy. For June 2012, we had 497 books donated, 108 tapes, 10 DVDs, 1 audiobook, 63 items were added to the collection, and 7 were completely replaced. So that's, and we're accounting for all of these things now. Really want to make note of what goes in and out. And just while we're on this page, the Dahlia sales for May and June, this is utterly astonishing, is $1,423 made from selling those. May and June book sales in Chapter 2, our book sale area. The updated amount that I got today, so it's $350 in 2 months. And I think that's really great.
Do you have any idea of what it cost to implement the book sales? I mean, $161 and $172, May, June, that goes pretty quick in wages, of dealing with them.
Well, as I
so
mentioned,
it seems like it might be a wash or a loss.
Well, and it, you know, this is the 4th month that we have addressed this. And Joanne Hedrick has been doing this for years. This is what she does. This is part of her job. She gets this stuff in, she decides what we need, she gives that to me. We've also had a couple of volunteers who come and restock the shelves. So this is negligible. And I feel that in the future, once more people know we have that, I think it'll steamroller, and I think it'll be a lot bigger. Most libraries have a spot in their library for book sales. And we've had to do that, and I think it's been going well, and I think it'll go better. But, so I suppose that's a segue into the next item on old business.
Well, you kind of segued into miscellaneous statistics from, did we finish up with discussing about public
Yes.
input there?
Yes.
We did?
Yeah.
This is good information, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, there's also this one here from, that wasn't addressed, Janet Heller, excuse me if I mispronounced her name, suggested that the board pursue mediation to mend the severed relationship with Linda Arnett and the board of the Literary Foundation. So did she get any sort of resolution?
I thought that was a comment, and
Oh.
I'm not sure what we can tell her about that. But I did speak to her about the first thing that she mentioned last time. I just mentioned that a minute ago. I did call her and talk to her about it. But I don't know what to say about her comment.
Well,
Are we going to the
I
next
think we
thing?
need to go to the next
All right,
one,
let's go.
which is the foundation.
Okay.
And it was very nice of Jan, she's a lovely lady, to suggest that. I see she's gone. But I don't think mediation is going to do anything, because I've never seen this as anything but between the library and the foundation, not personal at all. I was appalled when I found out somebody thought it was personal, but not. But I think, so we've reached a good time with New, and just say they have, the Literary Foundation has some wonderful goals. They're going to be supporting many charities and organizations in Estacada and the area around it. My thought is Godspeed and do the good things that you do. I don't think at this point we really want to deal very much with the foundation.
well, I take a direct opposite of view to that. I think we we have over a 20-year relationship with the foundation. The foundation is very largely responsible for helping get this building constructed, furnished. It's done marvelous things for this building, this library, and this community. And you're right, it is not a personal issue. It is between the library board and the foundation. And as a member of the library board, I would strongly recommend that we heal that relationship. In fact, I would like to make a motion that we send an apology from the foundation, or excuse me, from the board of library board of directors to the Literary Foundation, apologizing for the untrue comments that were made by you, Karen, at an open meeting, and as president, you made comments that were untrue. And if you're not willing to explore mediation, then I would move that we issue an apology to them and look to mend the relationship.
Well, it seems like.
Excuse me, there's a motion.
Okay.
Is there a second?
There being no second, the issue is not successful. My fine hope is that you would not bring it up again and let us go our own ways And I think the community will be the better for it. We're having things that are just fine in the library, and as you can see, we're starting to sell more books. And we continue that. Nothing I said in that meeting was untrue. It was not. It makes you, well, you don't have to agree with it. It's something that we said before, you know, everybody doesn't have to agree on everything. That's why we have an uneven number, so that you can get something passed by a majority. It doesn't have to be 100%. And they seem happy. I understand they have a couple new people on their foundation with a couple more have expressed an interest in joining. So I wish them well. I shop in there, but I'm not at all interested in severing this foundation tie. Let them go their way. I think it will be fine. We have other things we would like to do. And we have wasted so much time on this that it's absolutely incredible. And volunteer down there all you wish. I'm not going to. I volunteer at the library. It's my library. I want to do things for it. And that's your saying, so we won't be sent headbutt. Well, it is flying around here, but it's a little larger than it ought to be. No, the board will, you have just voted, the board will not send an apology to the foundation, and we wish them every success. Okay, and I'm sorry, I did skip from that down to new business, and it was precisely because of doing something like that I went to have my eyes checked to say, how come I can see the one behind, but I can't see the one straight on? So, well, it could be the cataracts.
Karen, we talked about the hiring person.
Yes, we did. So can we go to the next meeting date, please?
Yeah, just to let you know, why I stuck this on here is that we have an event in this room on our usual meeting time, which is July 26th. So, and I also know that Janet will be out of town, and Karen will be out of town, and I was taking time off that week, so is there a time when we could skip to August, or what do you want to do?
We have done that before. On the board of directors decided that we would take 1 month because there was a little business. Of course, I think they did decide to vote to meet, and I didn't, but I think that we can probably go to August. We don't have pressing things to do in July, and in August we should have some reports. Tell you how the strategic plan is coming along, and you know, the children's reading program and things. So I would like to suggest that we skip the July meeting.
So we would meet August 30th?
Is that what it is? Okay, whatever the fourth Thursday is.
It's the last Thursday.
It's the fourth Thursday. Is that the fourth?
Okay, it's the 23rd.
Okay, the 23rd.
I personally would rather hold the meeting and have it either the week prior or the day before, the 19th or the 25th, and just go ahead and hold our meeting. I don't see a reason to eliminate it entirely. I think there are current things that are going on that need to be continued to be discussed and looked at. We're in a major transition here right now, and I don't think it's time to take a month off. That's my own opinion.
Well, did you say people couldn't make it if we change it? I can't make it if we move it up. Well, I would have to choose between meetings, but you know, and we didn't, are we going to have a hiring committee? Are we going to
No, we have to just let that go for a while and give Michelle a chance to settle in and see how things are. A hiring committee,
Elaine.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine she'd like to know when it's going to be permanent or.
Well, just, there will be a role for the board. There has been a role in the past, and whatever form that takes, there has been at least a board member in the past and a hiring committee, and, there's a lot of help that can be gotten from other library directors in the area, like advice on questions, advice on proceeding, and I'd like to tap into other people's knowledge on that.
Yeah, obviously, we need to put more effort into it than we did last time.
Absolutely. It's a very important job, and
Well, we did. I think we need to let it go for a few months and let people get settled in.
That's your opinion, Karen.
Isn't that great that we've never...
Yes, it is, and there's 5 of us here,
Yes,
so.
there are. So let's see.
I move that we hold a meeting in July. I will, if we can't hold it on regular scheduled date, let's pick a date and hold a meeting. I just don't see going an entire month without holding a meeting, or excuse me, an entire 2 months without holding a meeting when we're at a crossroads with our library right now. So, but that, anybody else?
Well, if you change the day, if you throw out some days possibly, did you say that there were conflicts with other
that week.
What's the conflict on the day itself, on the 26th, this scheduled day?
There's a children's summer reading program in this room.
That
evening.
That evening. Yeah.
What time?
It's 6 o'clock. Yeah, it's 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
Could we hold our meeting before or afterwards?
Well,
Be a great time to see the reading program in action.
Craig, it's such a hectic day on those days. It is like, it's insanity, really. I mean, there's kids coming in and out and getting ready for it. And basically, I spent about 2 days getting ready for this meeting anyhow. And it would be, yeah.
Seriously?
It
16 man hours go into preparing for this meeting?
Well, I'm saying 2 days of my schedule, not exactly 16 hours, but 2 of my work days are spent getting ready for this. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I haven't done this before. I have to get reports from various people and compile everything, and it takes some time.
And at one time, city council, I think they were just meeting once a month then, but I remember they did not meet in 1 month, but that's long ago.
There have been breaks since I've been here that people just say, all right, we just don't want to, it's summer, we want to do this and that, and whatever, there have been reasons people are out of town.
Okay, Craig, what do you feel is the pressing issue for us to meet in July?
I'll go with the group, obviously, so if
Sorry.
I'm not getting a lot of support, so that's okay. We won't meet in July. Let me know when the next meeting is.
See, and I've been wait a minute, but we have had, in the 8 years that I was on the board, there were times that we did skip a meeting.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I don't discount that. I'm just saying that as far as what important issues are going on is, we have an interim director who's got a really steep learning curve. I feel like we need to get some committees in place to lend her some support. I wanted to talk about forming a building committee tonight, but that was left off the agenda because of time constraints. And I would like to look at a hiring committee, and I would like to start forming some committees so that we can cut these meetings from an hour and a half to an hour and have committee reports. I'd like to see a budget committee starting to be formed, and I'd like to see each of us take a committee and form some committees to spread the work out a little bit. So that's why I see it as important. But
Well, I would like that also, and maybe we can right now start
Not
with
tonight.
committees. Why not?
Because
It's,
I mean, we can volunteer.
no, I'm not up to forming committees yet. Give Michelle another month. And besides, Berlin,
Well,
I have
this is,
cake.
you have what?
I have cake to share
At home.
here.
Well, I mean, if board members volunteer to express an interest, you know, in a committee, that could be a beginning.
I have a couple of things, maybe.
Okay.
I'd like to just decide what kind of committees maybe that would help a lot. Volunteer committees in the library, so I'd like some time to do that. And the other reason just totally flew out of my mind. Sorry.
Well, you know, the ones that you mentioned, like.
Oh, I know what it was, I'm so sorry to interrupt. But, you know, if we do get a new, which we will, get some new board members, a new board member, I mean, it seems to make a little more sense to wait until we have people on board, the new people, until we start forming a lot of committees. Or, you know, the bulk of the committees, because we're gonna have a new person, and so that person may have some input into committees and deciding, you know, what do I wanna do, what do they wanna do, so.
Michelle?
It just seems better to wait.
Do you have any idea when most of the results will be in from the survey? Maybe
Yeah.
that will help guide things a little bit too.
I want to run it through summer, probably into September 1st.
Yeah, that was, okay, and Karen, I think you mentioned like the 23rd, you would have results from the strategic committee. I didn't think,
I think you said that, but we won't.
okay, that's what you said, but I was
No, we
worried.
won't, sorry.
Okay, all right, good clarification. So I don't know, I just thought the committees would possibly help you and not, that maybe you'd have a head, maybe you'd have a start, maybe you would give some thought,
Maybe
or
there
you
be,
could.
maybe there'd be 5 more meetings for Michelle to go to when she could be doing other things.
Well, that's,
And Suzanne, we waited on the budget until she was on the board because we wanted a full complement of people and not have just 4 of us, but we want, because it affects the entire board. So we put that off for Suzanne. And I think you should do that until.
I'm very good at postponing.
Well,
It
okay,
gets me in
deal.
trouble.
Well, it happened.
Is it
Okay.
August 23rd?
She's
So
got
on
it
the
on the calendar.
23rd, I'll post it in the appropriate places. Is it August 23rd then?
Yes.
Okay.
If I can adjourn, if I could. Oh, no, we have trustee and president comments. Okay. Trustee Janet.
No comment.
Craig.
No comment.
Just like to thank everyone for coming.
I've said enough.
And I'm saying, I have cake. It's my birthday, and I brought cake. So do we want to stay in here and bring the cake in here? That might be easier than milling around in the library. So, maybe Sarah can help her, I'll go with you.